Early nominating contests build momentum for 2024 contenders seeking the White House. C-SPAN is the place for political campaign enthusiasts, with unfiltered coverage surrounding the early primaries and caucuses, as well as speeches from key battleground states. Whether you're interested in your state's race or want to follow all of the political events, you can get immediate access to what the candidates are saying, plus nominating results in real time with the free mobile app, C-SPAN Now, or watch live on the C-SPAN networks.
Ghostfacers! Ghostfacers! We face the ghosts where the others will lie. We're Ghostfacers! Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot. Ghostfacers! We face the nightmare. We face the dread. Ghostfacers! We face the faceless. We face the dead.
Trip and fall into the supernatural. Where who you're gonna call? But we face them all.
Ghostfacers! We face the faceless. We face the dead. Ghostfacers!
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Benedict.
And I'm Richard Spade Jr.
And we're talking about Season 3, Episode 13, Ghostfacers.
I think it's actually pronounced Ghostfacers.
I did not know it was French.
I actually don't even think you say the S. I think it's Ghostfacers.
Ghostfacers. Okay. Good to know.
To our friends in the Montreal, Quebec area, it's Ghostfacers.
And you're welcome. I couldn't think how to say you're welcome in French. We just want to thank everyone who listens and who went the extra mile to tell their friend that we've got a podcast here.
Yeah, we really wanted to thank you, anybody who's listening, because it's free. Just listen. It's not going to kill you. But also, you've been spreading the word. That's great. Now, to those of you who aren't spreading the word, what gives? Why so tight-lipped about the whole thing? Don't you enjoy it? Go tell people, you know?
All right. Ghostfacers, otherwise known as Ghostfacers. This is it.
Oh, it's time for the summary. Robbie, do that summary that you do so well.
It's the episode Phil Sgriccia has been talking about for years. I finally got a chance to see it, and this is how it goes. They face the ghosts when the others will not. Ed Zedmore and Harry Spengler are back, but they are no longer the Hell Hounds.
Nope.
They are the Ghostfacers.
Yep.
And they're producing a ghost hunting reality series.
Yeah, they are.
There are some new members of the team. There's Maggie, Ed's adopted sister, Corbett, the intern, and Spruce, a camera guy. The latest attempt at fame brings the Facers to the Morton House, an abandoned house where legend says every 4 years it becomes the most haunted place in America.
I went to college with a guy named Talbert Morton. You can't help but think there's a correlation.
Oh, yeah, of course, especially in Nashville.
No, I went to college in Los Angeles.
Yeah, USC. Well, anyway, it's haunted by Freeman Daggett, nicknamed the Leap Year Ghost because he appears every 4 years on February 29th. The Ghostfacers hope to capture on camera an encounter with the ghost. The team sets up cameras around the house and proceed to record their investigation when unexpectedly the Winchesters show up.
Wait, the Winchesters as in Sam and Dean?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ed and Harry recognize them from their encounter in Texas. Suddenly, the clock strikes midnight and everyone gets trapped in the house.
Bummer.
Harry and Maggie witness a death echo, where apparitions replay the moment of their death in a loop.
Oh.
Soon, the group encounter another that seems to get hit by a train.
Death Echo is a great name for a band, just for anybody out there putting together a band.
There's never been a Death Echo. That's such a great name for a band.
Right.
The intern Corbett gets captured by the Leap Year Ghost. They frantically search for him. Then Sam disappears, taken by the ghosts. Yep. Corbett and Sam are tied to chairs in a dark room. They are seated at a table with human corpses posed like they're at a birthday dinner. Sounds like your place, Rich. The Leap Year Ghost circles the table. He circles the table and proceeds to stab Corbett through the back of the throat.
Oh, no.
Sam watches him die. Meanwhile, Dean and Spruce get trapped, heading down to the basement, suspecting that Sam and Corbett might be in the bomb shelter.
They weren't.
Dean convinces the remaining Ghostfacers to remain in a circle of salt. While the Ghostfacers huddle in the circle, they start to witness a death echo of their friend Corbett. Harry convinces Ed that he must connect with Corbett's ghost through an emotional bond because Corbett had a romantic crush on Ed.
Oh!
Dean and Spruce find Sam. The ghost is too strong for them. Spruce is about to be killed. However, upstairs, Ed tells Corbett how much he means to him and the team. This pulls Corbett out of his death echo, and he saves the team in the bomb shelter, dragging the Leap Year Ghost into the light. The Ghostfacers have captured all this on their camera, and they show a pilot of their show to Sam and Dean. The brothers erase the footage with an electromagnetic device and hit the road.
Essentially, Sam and Dean were network execs who didn't pick up the pilots.
Exactly.
And shelved it.
Now, was this done? We'll get into it in our interview, but was this done as a standalone? Like, did they think that this was going to be a backdoor pilot?
I don't know.
It almost feels that way. That the whole thing is done as if you're watching a reality show. It's like the show Supernatural is sort of taken over by the Ghostfacers, and this is we're watching just an episode of the Ghostfacers, and it's really well done the way that they do it.
Could be.
You don't see a typical shot until the very, very end of the episode when they're showing the pilot to the boys. So that's cool. And do you watch Schitt's Creek? Did you ever watch Schitt's Creek?
No.
Well, the guy who plays Corbett is a main character, or, not a main character, but a recurring character on that.
Oh, good. He did a nice job in this show.
Yeah. I think he's a young Canadian actor. It's great to finally see it. I love seeing those guys back together. They're so funny. Travis and AJ are so great.
Oh, man, it's so funny.
And they do those parts so well.
So great at those roles.
Eager to ask them how much of it was improv.
There's a lot to ask about that episode because it's so unique and so fresh in its approach.
Yeah.
But now we can't ask those questions. Not yet, because we don't have the interview going. But what you do have, you know what we do have? Rob and Rich review. I thought it was super clever and unique, unlike anything we've seen in the Supernatural universe before, even though we've seen the Ghostfacer guys, AJ and Travis, before. Not like this. It was very cool, very unique, very stylized, very Phil Sgriccia. And I thought the supporting cast was also really entertaining and did a great job. And I totally enjoyed it. And I loved seeing Sam and Dean in their world versus them in the Sam and Dean world. I thought it was very, very clever. And I thought the story was compelling about the actual ghosts and the loop and all that. So I liked it a lot, the whole thing.
Yeah, I like Jensen and Jared did such a great job too of like it's not easy to continue to be in character in the same way when you're shot on what to us almost looks like cell phones. I mean, it's really shot with he really shot this with different cameras, right, Rich?
Yeah, exactly. It looked like, we'll find out in the actual interview, but it felt like, it's probably digital cameras, but, had that almost videotape-esque sort of feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when you don't have that sort of that polished look of the show, it's almost harder to maintain, the character for what it is. And I thought that they did a great job of that.
This is going to be interesting talking about how they executed it, because I know you have questions about improv from performance. I have questions about improv from camera work, where they just kind of running around with cameras like Brad Creaser and the team, or did the actors have the cameras like Blair Witch? Like, how did they do it?
Right. It was very Blair Witchy at times too. Yeah. And I guess the challenge for Phil must have been, everything that you shot had to have been shot by the crew, the Ghostfacers crew.
And also, how do you edit together? Because there's no string together narrative. You know what I mean? It's very loosey-goosey. Anyway, it's going to be a fascinating interview. Can't wait for that. Let's talk about the review.
Look, it's another classic. It's another classic Supernatural episode. And we've got a lot in a row here. We've got, we had Mystery Spot, the Giustimbello. Now we've got this.
This was better than Giustimbello to me. I liked this episode more. I think this was, because it just, the conceit, how clever it was entertaining to me in a fresh and unique way. And the fact that Sam and Dean were still, as you say, very much Sam and Dean in this new world, I thought it was really cool and clever and well done by all involved. For that reason, I am giving it a Zach Galifianakis. Here's why. I know you wonder why I am using Zach Galifianakis and not Stapleton, because I think it's really, really, really great. But if Stapleton is perfection, I don't think everything can be perfection. And the one thing I didn't like that Sam and Dean erased the tape at the end. I thought that was kind of a jerk move.
Oh, wow.
So that bumped it down from Stapleton to Zach Galifianakis.
Wow.
But it's still a great episode. I wish somebody would review me with the Zach Galifianakis. I love that idea. Rob?
You know what? I'm going to give it...
Randy Owens?
Can I just do it on my own? I'm going to give it a Phil Sgriccia.
A goatee.
Yes, and I mean that in two different ways, right? I'm giving it the Phil Sgriccia, which is Phil has a characteristic
Almost like Colonel Sanders-esque sort of goatee.
Yeah, goatee. And it's his brand. It's really kind of his brand. And it's always perfectly manicured.
Yeah, man.
He doesn't have stubble ever.
No.
It's perfectly manicured. And I'm going to give it that just sort of as a tribute to Phil, because I know that really Phil, this was one of his favorite episodes and kind of his baby in a way. And he, and it was just so much fun. It was a lot of fun and always fun to see Travis and AJ. My favorite moment was when the garage door opened.
That was great.
That was fantastic.
That was great. Oh my God, That was so funny. That was so good.
Yeah, they're in the garage, planning it, and then all of a sudden you feel like there's an earthquake, and they're like, "Dad!"
That was so good. It made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, so I'll give it to Sgriccia just in honor of Phil.
All right, that's a sterling review from Rob and Rich. You got a Galifianakis and a Sgriccia.
And we're not done there. We got an interview for you.
With whom, Robert?
Well, we have the original Hell Hounds themselves, Travis Wester and AJ Buckley, plus executive producer and director himself, Phil Sgriccia.
Wait, it's a super mega panel of guests you just pitched there.
It truly is. Well, let's get into it. All right, we've got a super mega panel of guests. We have the original Hell Hounds themselves, Travis Wester and AJ Buckley, plus executive producer and director Phil Sgriccia. We're here finally talking about Phil's favorite episode of Supernatural, Ghostfacers.
Do you remember in ABC in the 80s or the late 70s, they would do a Night of 100 Stars? Gabe Kaplan would be there. And I feel like that's what we're doing right now. We've got Michael Landon playing basketball against Andy Griffith. It's awesome. Thanks for being here, everybody. This is I feel like this is a Hollywood celebrity reunion. This is such a good episode of TV, and it's so unlike anything Supernatural had done. Even you guys, even your stuff up to this date was not this.
Yeah. Right.
Really different. Right out of the gate, I haven't even looked at the printed questions yet. I know there's printed questions, but I want to know right out of the gate, how much of this was on a page and how much of it was improv?
60-40 maybe.
Which one?
60 on the page.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd say that. I mean, it was so well written, but what was great with Phil, you sort of figured out that we were just nuts and we would try anything. And once we sort of got it on the page, you were like, just do what you guys want and see what happens. And because this experience in itself was like being on stage, and because there was no crew really, there was 16 or 17 cameras. We'd sort of block out our path, and then real things would happen within the scene that we didn't plan. Like something would drop and we would just stay in. So, and then also Austin was getting used to holding the camera, and so everything was fresh. So things naturally just happened. And Phil had just said before, he's like, whatever happens, do not cut, don't break character, just go. So it kind of we got what was on the page, and then it just kind of turned into something else.
Well, and also Phil would sometimes, I feel like, and Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but Phil would also sometimes, while we were shooting, he would have something happen. He would have a noise or a prop or something that we weren't expecting, just to see how we would respond to it.
The rat was
great.
Example. That was not scripted. That was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did a whole thing where Harry was afraid of rats. So I had the prop department get a real stuffed rat.
That's amazing.
A dead rat, and put it in a room, and then they found it and they stayed in character, and that's what you see. That's part of the fun
awesome.
of it.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you did those confessionals with us, and you asked us all in the confessionals our fears or this or that.
Were the confessionals part of the script?
Yeah.
And then we did some together. After we did that first, and then we did it when we met for dinner and stuff, we would talk about it. But then you planted certain things, and we were like, oh, that's the stuff that I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it was a lot of the confessionals, I don't know if the confessionals were actually in the script, but
no, they were no.
Because that's such a reality show motif, it just felt like, let's do some of those and see what stays. We had so much more footage. Plus, we shot it all on these prosumer video. It was just one of those things that there was a lot of hand-wringing with Serge and our camera guys about the quality and all.
Right.
It's not supposed to be good.
Right.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, and the challenge as the director, I would assume, is, you have to tell the story from the footage that would have been shot by these guys for their show. So, like, I love that there's, like, towards the end, there's footage from the cameras on the ground.
Mhm.
And you see, like, a lot of the important action of the episode, happening from that angle, because that's where you are. That's all you got.
Well, once we set up the rules of what it was, it became a contest between the camera department and the actors, because the actors would do a couple takes with the cameras rolling. And then there would be a couple things where we had visual effects. We would bring in our better camera just so the visual effect could be better. And then we degrade it to match the rest of the footage. But it became this thing that the actors, and I'll probably get yelled at for this, but you guys, because you were in the moment and in the scene, the camera tended to naturally go to things that was happening in the scene, like a real documentarian. And so it became this kind of war between the camera department and the actors to who could do better. And
that's funny.
It was so much fun because once we committed to this is what the angle is, like we couldn't like go in for a close up. You had to zoom in and you had to find a place where the zoom would happen. So it had to feel natural and it had to feel within that moment. And these guys were attuned to that after the first, I think, half a day. And it was pretty cool because there were a couple days where we finished our whole day in like less than 6 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
there was no coverage.
Like the scene with Corbett and Sam at the birthday party with all the dead people, right? Corbett had a camera on his hand that was still attached, and he had that camera that was on the pogo
on his head,
that was pointing back at him. Well, that's the only two cameras in the basement. There was no other. Wow. They didn't know the basement existed. So when John DeSantis, our big hulking guy, I've used him 3 times on the show. He's the ghost. Everything had to be caught in those two cameras. So we made, like Corbett wakes up, and the camera moves, and then you see Sam across the table of the, dusty party, the cake and the corpses. They're having a "It's My Party" playing. And that's right. We shot that scene and we did it like 9 or 10 times, but that was it. That was the scene. That was all we couldn't go in for a close-up of Sam. We couldn't go for a reveal of the ghost. The ghost had to just show up. So once that everybody got in tune with that, it was like super fun. Also in the house itself, there were no marks. There was no, Serge had to light it in such a way where we used, camping lights and things like that as the eagle's nest. And the actors had free run of the place, which was super fun just to watch what would happen.
Was it an actual house or was it a set?
The outside was, and then we built the inside.
Okay.
And with the cameras, because they were prosumer cameras, they were autofocus cameras, I assume.
Yeah, some of this stuff was soft, and it was kind of like, roll with the warts. These guys were having fun with it. And
no, I think it were great. You see this kind of idea tried sometimes. Like Blair Witch did a phenomenal version of it. You guys did a great version of it. You'll see other people try, and you can tell they just can't let go of perfection. So it'll be like, and they're shooting things, but it's like, no, they're not. They're the camera guy who's doing great shots, very set up, and it takes you out of it a little bit. I think what makes this, what helps you buy this, and one of the things I found the most interesting was my own reaction to Sam and Dean coming in to Ghostfacers universe. You know what I mean? Because for 3 seasons, we've seen them shot beautifully, lovingly, caringly. And now they're part of the handheld mess as well. And it was just super trippy. You guys did such an effective job of selling that tone and style out of the gate that by the time we see Jared and Jensen come in, you're like, wait a minute. This is it. It was like, it'd be like having them walk onto Sesame Street. Like, it was just like, wait a minute, this is a whole different thing. And now they're here and they're being, and we're not changing the style. You guys didn't change the style because they were there. They just became part of the style that existed for your show. It's really cool.
I remember when they kept coming to set, because obviously, their show, we're very like grateful to be there and stuff. And then Phil was like, hey man, you guys are the Ghostfacers. These guys do not intimidate you. You just like ad lib, have at it with them. And I was like, yeah, we were like, yeah, just say whatever you want to them. I'm like, I look at Travis like, oh, we're going dark right now. We're going mess it. And then we was like, there was probably like 5 or 6 takes we couldn't get through it. Jared, I called him like chisel chest and rubberneck and like all. and he goes, and then one of the takes he goes, what did you just call me? I said chisel chest. And he was like, what? And he like walked up.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun because Corbett had to he was the cameraman for that bit, so it had to like flip around back and forth, and AJ's throwing these zingers at him, and we don't know where to, because there's one point where you can see Jared just start to smile and then he pulls it back, and it was like, well, okay, maybe that's what would happen.
What I can only think, and Phil, your background is editing. Obviously, you're a successful editor. Yeah. This seems like an editor's nightmare, like trying to put this together.
Yeah,
Anthony Pinker, I think, was going to be put into the insane asylum because he'd never done any reality. I used to shoot documentaries and stuff. So there's a certain amount of reality that you don't get take 2, right? So you have to work with what you have. We tried to do all these things and use only that take. If we had multiple cameras, like we did that nice montage where they set up cameras everywhere, it kind of gave us a license to have a camera somewhere that they might not be, like in the hallway or whatever. But it was Anthony Pinker was cutting it. And I think at first he was just like, holy shit, there's 9 cameras rolling here. What do I do? It wasn't filmed. We were on film still, so this was all.
I'm sure you had a lot of footage to go over too, right?
There's tons
with all the improv.
We just kept running.
So I want to take it back just a second. So at the beginning, did you? How much prep did you have? Because I know you guys got together in Phil's garage. Is that correct?
That was afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, that was after. Okay.
That was after. One thing we did that was fun. I think it was fun. You guys tell them. I had these guys ask them to like get together for a dinner or make a meal, right? And during prep. So Brittany and Austin, I don't know, was Dustin there with you guys?
I don't recall. I know that it was me and Brittany and Austin. I think AJ was on a flight, and I don't think we met Dustin until the day, but that actually worked out great because Dustin was the new guy. So
he was the new guy. So
right.
We kind of did it during prep. These guys, I asked them to get together and talk about where they came from and how they met and talk about their backstory. And, because they're kind of in this world of ghosts and goblins and how they came to be and how they came to be past the Hell Hounds, right? Because it was the new addition of the other people. And,
another thing Phil did, sorry to jump in, but another thing Phil did that was great is he handed us all a sheet of questions that we might be asked at some point. So he wasn't like, all right, on Wednesday morning, these are the questions I'm going to ask you. He just said, I might pull you, if we have a minute, I might pull you off to the side, ask you some of these questions, maybe. So he handed us this sheet of questions. So during that dinner Phil's talking about, we all just kind of asked each other those questions. And, from that, we actually learned so much about each other. By the end of it, we felt like we knew exactly who these characters were. We felt like we had been, in each other's lives for years. It was actually a really interesting and kind of cool team building exercise.
Great acting exercise,
right?
It's
fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's like the little things like when we were interviewing you, Travis, in the car where you're talking about a rat. And then I had Justin come up and tap the thing without you knowing it. Like I just said, go over and tap the window and like just wave and to move on. Because you're talking about Corbett or something right there. It was really awkward. So it was so much fun to throw curveballs at these guys whenever, because everybody was up for it.
Yeah,
right. It was really quite.
I remember, Phil, when we were doing the interview stuff and we'd gotten through like whatever it was. But I remember at one point you were like behind the camera and you kept saying, I gotta walk away because you kept like laughing so much. And then you're holding in the laughter so much that you like tears coming down your face. And Serge was the same thing. They both had to like step away from the shit that was coming out of her mouth. It was like, you couldn't even call cut. You were just like waving like
no,
this.
It was
like,
we did so many weird things. The house we were at, where we were outside in the back, where you guys were two lone wolves. And we did the slow-mo walk, when they're walking in slow-mo.
That was funny, yeah.
The way we figured.
Oh, the slow-mo walk was great,
they didn't have the money to do slow-mo, so they acted in slow. And you see cars going by at normal speed. And it's just like, what are they doing? It's like they're walking in slow-mo because they're, it's just like everything, every trope that we could get. And there was a bunch of stuff. I remember there was some stuff with AJ and your dad was out. He all of a sudden you're in the middle of the interview, and the guy who was playing your dad, we had him start up a lawnmower.
Oh yeah.
The interview. And so there's this whole take where AJ goes running over to his dad and you don't hear what he's yelling, but he's, doing this. Dad turns it off and, and acts like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. And then AJ has to recompose himself. There's so much that never made it. It was just.
Yeah. I love the garage door opening. That's one of my
that was one of my favorite bits. The garage door opening was so great.
Yeah, it really put a sense of where they came from, where they're really from,
it was great.
I would say that's like when we did the first episode, I was like, oh, that was like a really fun thing. And you never know if you're going to come back or see those people again, and then when we did this episode, I think that was the saddest. I was just like, I really hope we get to do. There was like a real genuine spark and just like laughed our asses off and just enjoyed the process of like those moments where you fall in love with acting again and you just fall in love with what you're doing and you're showing up and you're like, it's just everyone's there, everyone's having a good time. And and it was one of those, I was like, man, this is one of those experiences of life I'm always gonna look back on. And I was like, I hope this we get to do this again. And I think we all felt that on the set at that moment because we were on the shoulders of this giant show and these characters kind of came out of nowhere. And just by the grace of God that we all got to, we were all cast in the way that it was, and it actually worked. And like from Austin to Dustin to every, all of us, like just Maggie, like we all, everything worked and clicked.
Yeah, it feels like a pilot.
And Phil directing it, and it was like in the hands of another director too. We might not have done those things. It might have been shot different. So it was just sort of the perfect thing that all came together. And it was one of those experiences. We were like a couple of days. We were like, wow, there's something here, man. Where there's just there's a comedic language we're all speaking that we all understand how to set. And that's one thing is like we all knew how to set each other up for the joke. It wasn't just one person landing the joke. All of us would take a turn of setting up somebody for the joke. It was like, and that's, I think in improv, the biggest skill is being able to set somebody up, like hand the joke to them, have them get to laugh.
100%. Yeah. And building on that, AJ, sorry to jump in, but building on that, I mean, I would just say that on the like day to day, you were talking about like the confluence of all the factors and just the fact that none of the actors, you never got the feeling like any of the actors were trying to find a joke. They were just being those characters
themselves. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, cause like if you watch like kind of, bad improv, like a stage somewhere, like you see these guys like trying to find the funny and like trying to come in and be funny and find the weirdest thing to say to be funny. And I think the process of getting everyone to kind of think about these questions that Phil was asking and stuff like that, I think it really kind of brought out that everyone kind of knew exactly who they were and they just let that breathe. And I think that's kind of helped create a lot of that magic.
I mean, the whole backstory of Spruce being part Cherokee.
Yeah.
And his great grandfather was a Moyle, and the whole golf thing was a total improv. We were near a golf course, and I asked one of the camera guys to go over. We were over at the house, and I said, "Go over and shoot some stuff." And so, like 4 or 5 of the crew guys went, and crew folks, and they were all shooting golf balls at him. Well, so like hitting the cage and everything, that was all like just mount the camera inside, let him do his thing, let him talk, and it was so funny because he played it so deadpan.
Yeah, he was great. He was really funny.
Austin is amazing. So, I mean, and everybody, I think the whole cast, if we had other people, it wouldn't have been as good for sure.
Right.
And there's so much comedy in the show, in the episode, but you also, I want to circle back to some of the technical accomplishments here because you also pull off the story. You pull off the idea that there's ghosts in this building and there is a real threat. Like, we're talking about the jokes of it all, but there is a through line of the real story here that actually played out really effectively. And I'm curious, Phil, from your standpoint, you had, people disappear. You had what would seem like plate shots, but you weren't during plate shots. So how did you execute the visual effect element in this?
It was all our visual effects guys, Ivan, Mark. We only did one blue screen shot, and it was the guy with the train that gets hit by the train where Dean is.
Right.
The rest were all in camera.
Hey there, this is Richard Spate Jr., and I hope you're enjoying the episode, but we need to pull over for a few seconds for some messages.
Early contests build momentum for 2024 contenders seeking the White House. C-SPAN offers unfiltered coverage of events leading into early primaries and caucuses. Get access to speeches and results with the free app, C-SPAN Now, or watch live on the C-SPAN networks.
Thanks for supporting Supernatural then and now. And now, back to the show.
So the birthday guy, so talk me through that, because like the guy throwing the birthday party, he just disappears on camera. How did you pull that off?
We shot it twice, once with him there and once with him out, and then VFX did a little ghosty thing. And
okay, so you did do a plate version of that kind of thing.
You know, he's there and then he's not, but it's all the same camera shot. And
right,
we tried to keep everything like part of the thing that was happening with Spruce's camera. He starts and he's down the hallway, and all of a sudden the image gets all ratty and jiggles a bit, you know, and there's phasing and distortion and noise. And it was our key that said there's a ghost nearby. So, and Spruce doesn't know this at the beginning. He says, there's something going on with my video because the imagery goes, you know, like this. And then later in the room with Travis and Brittany, the guy that gets shot, that was all done right there. We didn't do any blue screen. It was the guy was there. We shot a plate without him, and then they added a bit of the smoke and the focus. But part of our helper there was the distortion of the video. It allowed us to jump frames and stuff. But What was cool was it allowed us freedom because we weren't doing blue screen. If you look at that camera goes from the guy getting shot and disappearing, and we pan over to a frozen Travis and Brittany, you know, looking at the spot, and you know, then it goes Ghostfacers, you know, because it is a pilot. But you know, that was super fun to be able to do all that in camera, pretty much, because it wasn't like we had to go separate. The lighting all matched, everything looked seamless then, so we were allowed.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was challenging for them because obviously resolution being what it was at that time, you're not dealing with 4K imagery. You know, it's 720 or whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever it was. I mean, it was probably 1080, my guess. They were, you know, I said, look, this has to be as good as anything that can air. And there was a lot of reality stuff that was airing at this, you know, level. And some of it's not, you know, it's purposefully, you know, grungy. It's supposed to be this kind of
lo-fi.
But that's what made it look more real. To be totally honest, I felt like the visual effects. Okay, not the visual effect. I felt like the act of seeing a ghost disappear in this episode was in many ways more effective than previous episodes because you did not see the gimmick of it.
Right.
The gimmick, it was buried within the other gimmick.
Right.
The other gimmick being the handheld run and gun nature of it all.
Yep.
It made it feel more real.
Well,
honestly.
You're not stopping down the action to show everybody your cool visual effect. It's happening within the sequence and it's naturally happening. And then the camera it continues to the next piece, you know, it's not part of the documentary.
And I think too, what a lot of people said too, within that, like, it felt like you were a fly on the wall. Like you were actually, like you were having that POV experience of going through, like, kind of like how we all felt when we saw Blair Witch for the first time.
Right.
You know, and I feel like that too, it definitely, there was a heightened sort of thing. And I'm a firm believer too, if you get the audience laughing, the fright beat is that much more terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
They're so not expecting that the train's going to come through or whatever's going to happen or someone's just going to die suddenly. So it allowed these great moments of just you're laughing, and then just like wham, and then then the camera just keeps going, and you're like, oh God, I'm on a ride here. Like this is, and then you're laughing.
Yeah. Same with the drama, you know, and like what Rich was saying, like this episode has everything. I love the scene, AJ, with you and Corbett, which becomes a very, you know, it's a very serious moment. You play it so well. That moment I thought was really eloquent and amazing. You know, and you
it could have been really camp. It could have been really something else. But that's what I'm talking about. You guys, you knew when to, even within the improvisation nature of this, you guys and your fellow performers knew when to land the plane. Like you knew when to go, okay, now we're going to take this beat seriously. Now we're going to come back up.
I think
it's just really well done.
I think part of
that goes to Uncle Phil.
I think part of what you got, like AJ's right, is like you get them laughing, and then the killing of Corbett is so brutal because you don't see it coming. you only hear something, and then all of a sudden the rebar goes through his throat. And
Yeah.
it's so horrific because it's happening in a close-up, and you see this shot ahead of time, and then you get to it, and all of a sudden you see the big guy behind him. You don't know what he's doing. All of a sudden, wham, and it's in a close-up, and it really shifts the tone very quickly. Now it's not so much fun anymore. We still have the craziness that goes on, but I think that moment sets up everything else to the other end, and especially with Travis and AJ.
What did you? How did you pull off that visual effect or that effect?
We killed him, Corbett.
I thought so.
Murder, yeah.
He was very committed. Very committed.
His doppelganger was on Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. He's actually a clone.
That was all a visual. We had you see it in the shot where you see the rebar get picked up, sort of, and you don't know what he's doing with it, and all of a sudden it comes through. That was all visual effects. We just had to paint a hole in Dustin's neck.
Very, very well done.
So what about the song? So the song was
I remember that.
was
Main
actually
title?
Yeah. So was that you guys singing on that?
Yeah.
That was Ben Edlund.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Wrote it.
Ben Edlund wrote that song with Chris Leonard's, our composer.
Yeah, we heard that he pitched it when he pitched the episode. He but then when they recorded it, is that your all's voices?
I think
Didn't
that's
we do? No, didn't we?
You guys, I think you guys, we did a version with you guys, and then I think Ben is the one where you hear him going, "It's the supernatural." That's Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came in post, and we kind of did a few takes of us singing, and I think you do hear us kind of in the background of that song, but by and large, it
goes. Yeah, it was that was actually the first time I ever had to come into a ADR session, and was like, it felt like when you're looking at the window, like you're in a rock session. Like I can't sing words. And Travis, I remember looking at Travis, you were like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's run it back. 1, 2, 3.
Give me one more. Give me one more.
One more. You're a little sharp there on that. Your hit gotta go.
Jerry, a little more horn, a little more
bass in my head,
a little more trumpet. Let me feel it.
So good.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
It's so fun, man. I think, Travis, you said it more eloquently than I could have put it. That it was a garage band. It was the actor version, Renegade New York Theater. It was just a garage. It just felt grounded. At any point, it could have gone off the rails, and it didn't. It was just well executed from a comedic and dramatic standpoint. And I left the episode, now talking story, thinking that Sam and Dean are just total b-holes for erasing it. I wasn't like, good for them. I was like, screw those guys. You have all this footage, including your buddy dying, and then they just zap it all.
Douche nozzles.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Not okay. This reporter was not okay with it. I'll tell you that right now.
What about we're asking about the Coven posters in the garage?
I know what that's from.
What
Coven?
Yeah.
Coven. Talk to me. What's that from?
Jerry Wanick became friends with the guy who made that movie.
So let's tell people what the movie is, because they may not know.
The movie is called, is it American Movie?
Yeah, American Movie.
American Movie, yeah.
Oh, right. That documentary.
About these guys up in Wisconsin. Jerry's from Wisco. And we started, he had a conversation. He ended up meeting them. And then he ended up getting the poster. And we were like, yeah, let's put that in there, because this is like what they would be looking into, That's
amazing.
It's so genius. So American Movie, for those who don't know, is a documentary about a guy and his buddy trying to make a horror movie. And the movie they're trying to make is Coven, but they pronounce it in their own movie. They pronounce it Coven, which is why we're calling it Coven.
Yeah.
But it's Coven. And that poster you see in this episode is from the inside of the American Movie. So American Movie is about these guys trying to make a movie. The movie they're trying to make is Coven. And that's their own movie poster. Right. And I loved that Easter egg just because American Movie was an unbelievable documentary. It's so great.
Really is.
So good.
And then the fact that he kept calling it Coven also just killed me every time I saw that poster. Is so great. Did you have a hard time getting the rights to use that poster?
No, they gave it to us. I mean, Jerry became friends with the guys. And I think he's probably met them in Wisconsin. He goes back home once in a while or whatever. But they were really cool. And they were like thrilled to have their movie within the movie, get put up. But I got to say, there's so many instances in this episode that is the genius of our actors, because most of the diary to the camera stuff was all ad-lib. None of that was scripted. So when you see Corbett unpacking, stuff, that's all him. When you see Spruce talking about his past, that's all them. So
that's awesome.
Kudos to these folks for what they did, because and Ben is very open about how much there's scripted and how much there isn't. I mean, it was a fabulous script to start with, but these guys just took it to another level,
It's so great. Guys, it's such a good episode of TV that it doesn't even feel like an episode of TV, because it's its own thing.
And I have to give props. I have to props out to AJ and Travis, because the chemistry you two have together really holds this group together, and it's the reason you came back. And it's really, you're hilarious together, and it's a joy to watch. It really is.
Yeah, and you do the drama. I mean, again, I can't throw enough props at that. Like, it'd be easy just to joke your way through the bits and scream and run, and that would be hilarious. But it wouldn't really be like AJ said, if you guys are the fans, if what you are is a manifestation of how the fans view this world, then there has to be a foot in reality to it. There has to be something that's a grounded emotional truth to it. And Phil, shepherded you guys correctly, and you guys execute it really, really well. And being honest with the whole thing, so that the jokes are funnier if I know you can be serious too. If I don't feel like I'm just being jerked around on a gag the whole time, then it's like, okay, I'm going to feel like your moment with Corbett at the end is just totally heartfelt and legit and heartbreaking. And you have to have that, and you have to have the awkwardness of you busting your buddy making out with the girl. You have to have those moments.
Sister making out with his sister.
Adopted sister. But to have the other things matter. You know what I mean? They all have to matter. Yeah. It is great. Really, really well done. It does. You go back and look at this, and you go, "Why the bleep was that not a spinoff right then?"
Yeah.
Like, you watch that, and you're like, "That is tailor made."
Yeah, it's a backdoor pilot.
Production wise, it would have been, if you shot it the way you shot it, it would have been not even expensive to do.
Yep. I think when the web series came out, it was like sort of like, it was way before its time. Like nowadays, it would have like a platform, and it would be, but there it was like they didn't understand how to track it or get it out. It was geo-blocked.
100%.
There was all sorts. So there was no like understanding of how it could work.
Did you notice that Nick Frost did a ripoff?
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's
been a bunch of ripoffs.
Who's Nick Frost?
I haven't been able to keep track of how.
From Simon Pegg world. Okay,
Nick
sure. Frost is the Simon Pegg side.
He's like, it's like him. He's the right hand man.
Yeah, he did a ghost, bumbling ghost, hunters on. It might have been Netflix, but I looked at it. I was like, wow, that's just the Ghostfacers right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also think I hate to kind of like change the direction of the conversation at all, but I do think it's kind of worth noting the context that the episode was kind of created in, which was at that time, I believe, and Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this was the first episode shot after the writers' strike, after the big writers' strike. So, the rationale, the reason for shooting it and having it look the way it did is because during the writers' strike, there was this huge glut of all this reality TV. I mean, it was just reality TV all day, every day, because, the writers were on strike. So there was no narrative television. It was just, Fantasy Island or whatever it was. I just think it's worth noting and how clever it was. That Ben was able to take that and say, like, all right, well, now we're gonna do a written piece of this reality TV, and I think that was also really clever.
Yeah,
right.
And you mentioned it in the intro. You guys give mention to the writer's strike.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And here we are on the precipice once again of a possible writer's strike.
I know we're talking about the writer's strike as we face down another potential writer's strike.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for being a part of this. It's awesome. It's such a good show. We could go on and on about it. It was just awesome. So thank you.
It's great to see you, Phil.
Yeah, you too.
See you, Uncle Phil.
Hope we get to see you again in person soon.
All right. Much love, guys.
This is Jared Padalecki stopping in to say hi and let you know that we've got to take a quick break. We're back.
All right, that was great. And now it's time for mythology. Mythology.
Yes, though it sounds like something that there would be lore about, death echoes were made up by Ben Edlund for the episode.
Oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. Ben Edlund. I assumed they were a real thing too. Nice job, Ben Edlund.
I mean, that's such an Edlund piece right there.
Edlundian sort of thing.
Yes, what a classic. However, there is a haunted Morton house. It isn't in Wisconsin like this episode, but there's one in Douglas, Wyoming, Rich.
And Talbert Morton.
A
gentleman with whom I went to college is not from Wyoming or Wisconsin.
But have you been to Douglas, Wyoming?
No, but I have a friend named Douglas.
Okay, there you go. I have a friend named Wyoming.
Probably a girl, I'm assuming.
Legend has it that a window washer was at the top of the house when a baseball shattered a window, sending glass flying, slicing the window washer's wrists.
Oh.
She bled to death. She bled to death. She bled to death before help could arrive. Some say at certain times of night, you can still see "Help Me" written in blood in a top floor window.
That's me writing it in the window.
Other stories of the house are about the original owner's children who died young of tuberculosis and can still be heard playing in the hallways.
Oh, that's sad. I think it's interesting that the window washer was a lady. Usually it's dudes out there on the scaffolding. So that's, not to be sexist, obviously anybody can wash windows, and I'm all for having everybody of all genders and stripes be window washers, but I just didn't see it being a she in this description.
No, it's a win. It's a win for the ladies.
Yeah, it's a window for the ladies.
That's a window.
Window.
But yeah, what a bummer.
Yeah.
Bummer day.
Bummer day to be a window washer. Or a child with tuberculosis.
Yeah. Sure. Man, don't go to that house.
A lot of days it's okay to be a child with tuberculosis, but not in the Morton house.
Not anymore.
Nope.
Fun fact. When pitching the idea of this episode to Eric Kripke, Ben Edlund already had the theme song written and sang it as part of the pitch.
That's awesome. I'd love to have an audio cassette of that.
Yes, that's fantastic.
The Bookends are a parody of Masterpiece Theater, a drama anthology series on PBS, the public broadcasting service, featuring adaptations of classic and contemporary literature, usually with English accents.
You know, Harry Spengler and Ed Zedmore are names inspired by characters from Ghostbusters. Egon Spengler and Winston Zeddemore. Huh, I didn't know that one.
Yep, and this was the first episode after a 2-month broadcast hiatus caused by the writer's strike in 2008.
Which is it's so interesting that funny to me that they, talked about the writer's strike in the sort of intro part of the bookend.
Right.
That they mentioned it. Again, I love it when Supernatural does this. They're winking at us, the viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so great. It's so great. And of course, it's from the mind of Ben Edlund.
Of course, from the mind of Ben Edlund, as only can be the mind of Ben Edlund.
That's right. Well, Rich.
Well, Robert.
What a journey.
And this has been a great episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of the podcast that is Supernatural Then and Now. We appreciate your ears listening to us. We appreciate your lips spreading the word. We appreciate your fingertips tapping out messages on our Twitter and Instagram and letting your friends know via any messaging app that you have that we have a podcast and we want them to listen. Because remember, it's available on all of your podcast platforms and it is free.
You got it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll see you at the next one.
Damn right.
This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester and Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester.
Guest stars include A.J. Buckley, Travis Wester, Brittany Ishibashi, Austin Basis, Dustin Milligan, and John DeSantis.
Ghostfacers was written by Ben Edlund and directed by Phil Sgriccia.
Editing by Anthony Pinker. Music by Christopher Lennertz.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
The original broadcast of this episode featured the following songs: We're an American Band by Grand Funk Railroad.
It's My Party by Leslie Gore.
And one of my favorites, man, and I love that they use this, Hocus Pocus by Focus.
This episode originally aired on April 24th, 2008. This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Hada Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
What's up, Booty?
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
This episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at SPN Then and Now.
And become a member of the podcast at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ghost.
Ghostfacers.
Ghostfacers. We face the ghost when the others will not. Ghost. Ghostfacers. Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot. Ghost. Ghostfacers. We face the nightmare. We face the dread. Ghost. Ghostfacers. We face the faceless. We face the dead. When you trip and fall into the supernatural, we're who you're going to call. We face them all. Ghosts. Ghostfacers. We face the faceless. We face the dead. Face ghosts. Ghostfacers. Perfect.
It's really hard to do because we're not
in sync
with each other. I like our the way that we promote the show is try to make people feel bad for not promoting the show.
It's genius. Hey, it worked. It worked for Frosted Flakes.
Sure did.
Why aren't you eating Frosted Flakes? You're selfish.
Oh, good stuff.
Story Mill Media.